1-year anniversary, which was supposed to happen last month, but obviously, you know, I'm still happy to have you guys join me and support me. Everybody who's on right now, I really appreciate you guys. And like I said, I will post the blog about Podcorn. I'll post it by tomorrow. I'll upload it, and I'll upload a couple of stuff that we spoke about. But yes, definitely check it out. Podcorn is worth checking out. So Anne's gonna have to go because we love her. We want her here, but we have to have Aaron come in. And real quick, do Podcorn work with podcasts on Anchor? That I'm not sure of, because the person who hosts her podcast does not host her podcast on Anchor. She hosts her podcast on Lisbon, and she also hosts on Blog Talk. I don't see why it should be an issue. It's just you putting your RSS feed into that system, and they're matching you up with different people. So if you guys go to podcasters of NJ.org, that's our website. Well, I'm gonna put that up there and to speak about Podcorn, so you guys have the actual information and know a little bit more about it. And somebody said, where's the blog? Our website?
I think she meant about the blog post regarding Podcorn. So that's going to be on the website itself, the podcastsofnewjersey.com website.
So I'm sorry, guys. I have to cut Ann short. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm bringing on Aaron Price in a little bit. So Ann,
okay,
thank
awesome.
you. If you can, you know.
No problem. Thanks, everyone. All right. Take care.
So yes, we're waiting on Aaron to come in, and so I will add the Podcorn blog just so you guys can have the information. Because I think it's a good thing. You can obviously make some money, make some relationships, make some connections, and it'll be a great way to have everyone on. Okay, so all right, Aaron's on. I'm just waiting for the pin. I don't see the request. Yeah, so that's a good way for you to make some money and monetize your podcast. Okay. Hold on a second. Give me a second. Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for listening in. He's coming in any minute. So yeah, so I just think that's a good way to monetize, and you can make sponsorship relationships and see they'll keep a balance of how much money you make with them as well. And they always have like little contents and different things for podcasters when there's like there you go. All right, we're in with Aaron. It's coming on. You know, lately everybody, hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. I was a little nervous because the whole entire world is on Instagram Live right now, and things get kind of. Oh, thank you so much for joining us. And I was kind of bummed out, you know, that we weren't able to actually do the whole meetup in person and the whole vibe. But we're here, right? And
we're here. We're making it work.
We sure are. I want to thank you with everything that's going on with COVID. I just want to, you know, hope that everything is okay with you. And how's it been going professionally with everything and the transition?
I appreciate that. It's been pretty good. We've been very fortunate. I've been planning on making our organization more digital anyway. And so we were pretty well prepared for a lot of the things that have become inevitable. I've been really psyched about how the communities, you know, rallied, how the employees have been able to adjust, and I'm very pleased with how we're going. But I'm also hyper aware that I heard this saying the other day that we're all in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat. And I'm in a pretty good boat, but there's a lot of people whose boats aren't doing so well. So I'm very sensitive to that. But I'm very fortunate right now.
Yes, I agree. I mean, so a lot of times, a lot of people don't have a good workspace in the home, and they have their children, they have their full-time jobs, they have everything you can think of happening at once, and it's a difficult. But I'm very glad that you were able to come on, and everyone's excited. And I just wanted to say, you guys have been well adjusted. I'm very impressed, and all the things you guys are doing. The surveys are great. So NJ Tech Council has been sending out these surveys. They're asking of how people are adjusting during the pandemic, and I think that's so smart and just fast moving, because you're gauging what's going on with people's businesses and their mindset. So I wanted to, give you props on that. That's pretty cool.
I appreciate it. We also got to give a shout out to my nephew who's joined to watch in. So we got my nephew involved.
Thank you.
Which is pretty cool. Ooh, I almost knocked over my whole setup here.
It's okay.
I appreciate that. We wanted to be able to get a good pulse on what's going on in the community, what people's needs are. Right. And so we've been surveying week to week and tracking the trends.
I love it.
And businesses, small businesses in particular, obviously, are really struggling. And so we're doing the best we can to be supportive there.
No, I know, and I see that you guys are doing a lot. I wanted to ask one of the questions that I wanted to ask, so people will understand who you are and what you're doing. So, what is your role as CEO of NJ Tech Council?
That's a great question. I mean, my role is I think the organization is built to empower the innovation community and the entrepreneurs of the region, New Jersey in particular, but regionally. And my role is to make sure that we are putting our members on the map, that we're bringing interesting opportunities, that we've got a team that's delivering value to the members and to the community, to make sure we're getting ahead of the right and partnering with the right corporations and getting the right media exposure so that we can elevate what's going on in the New Jersey tech community, because there's a lot going on. Sometimes we don't get our fair share of attention. So I think my role is around awareness, value, engagement, things like that.
Okay. And why do you think it's important for podcasters to join NJ Tech Council?
Good question. I think podcasters could find a lot of great content in the membership of the NJ Tech Council. One is, I think there's great content sources, a lot of interesting people and companies in the community. I also think there's really good educational content for podcasters to learn how to grow their businesses, if this is a full-time thing or if they're trying to make it a full-time thing, and learning about how they might actually get sponsored and work in longer-term revenue streams. That I think the council brings a lot of those people into the fold. So, I'm sure you're aware of this. The council acquired my previous company, Propelify, which was a festival. And so we've always had podcasters there. This year we ran Podcast Row in partnership with, it used to be called Podcast Row with us, but there's actually now a company called Podcast Row, so we just had them do it. And coincidentally, it's the right fit. But we put on a lot of events that are great stages for content, and we very much welcome in the podcast community to capture that content and use it for their own benefit.
I love that. And that was my next thing. So Propelify, please tell everyone who's on live, Propelify is one of the biggest tech events in the East Coast. You have over 8,000 attendees. Tell everyone how Propelify has changed just the ecosystem in New Jersey.
Well, I'll tell you what we've done, and hopefully, you could tell me maybe how it changed the ecosystem. But our goal was to see how we could put the same thing. How can we put New Jersey on the map, put together the technology community at scale? And Joshua, one of these years you're going to make it there. The goal was never to do it just because we're in New Jersey. It was to do it in a way that let's leverage an asset of the region. So we've got this great pier with this, a lot of mass transportation comes there. We're we got this beautiful view of New York City. Let's leverage this fantastic venue to bring together the tech community at scale. And that's exactly what I was trying to do, and I think we did a reasonable job of accomplishing. So the goal is that people at that event can meet meet potential business partners, talent, friends, certainly have a good time, but it's a business event where it's about education and inspiration and how to build your business and hear from some amazing thought leaders. And so, it has been great. Forbes called us the South by Southwest in the Northeast, which was awesome. The fact that it got acquired by the council and we combined forces here was a big win. I'm still heavily involved. We're still running the festival, even if we're virtual this year. So my goal, I live in Hoboken. I'm here now. I'm sort of tired of, or had become tired of, living in the shadow of New York City. I mean, I love New York. It's one of the reasons I'm in Hoboken, but we took a lot of crap from the New Yorkers. Are you in New York right now?
Right. That's why I created Podcasters in New Jersey, for that same reason. I felt that everything was just across the bridge. No glare to us. Nothing for New Jersey or anybody to
We don't get love
at all.
And so I was like, well, and a lot of the people who commute to New York for various jobs and things,
right.
You do need that VIP band. A lot of people live in New Jersey. And so I was like, well, there's a lot of great people. There's interesting businesses. We're taking a lot of crap from the New York market. Let's lean in and see what kind of stuff shows up. And by the way, come on over, New Yorkers. We got, like, my whole view is if you build something really valuable, people will travel, will do whatever it takes to get there. A third of our attendees at the festival come from New York. 10% come from around the world. I think we've had 43 countries represented now. So it's not about, hey, Jersey's the best. It's about make it great, and people will come to, to things that are valuable for them.
Absolutely. I mean, I've had
this is a major family affair, by the way, because now I have my wife and my nephew. So don't make me look bad.
Thank you. No, I will never do that. We're right here with it. So yeah, the same thing with what we do at Podcast in New Jersey. We've had people come over and we welcome New Yorkers. Absolutely. I even have the website. I have a few people who come from New York to the meetup, but it was a base thing to bring it to New Jersey and bring some light to the people who needed that core. And I think that's what you've been able to accomplish in combination with the NJ Tech Council. And because of what you guys have done, I wanted to ask you, what steps do you guys take to be able to Propelify and NJ Tech Council to prepare yourselves for COVID? Because you guys have so many great events, the Lunch and Learn, the Clean Airlines thing. It's so many different things that you guys are doing a lot of, and digitally. What are the steps that you would say you guys as a combination have taken to prepare?
Sorry, things popped up.
No, you're fine.
You're fine. We look at, and I think I do this with events in person and the events that we've now done online. And we look at how can we differentiate this experience. We recently hired this woman, Jasmine, and her title, people expected it to be head of events, and it's deliberately head of experience, because I look at the ways that we interact with the community as experiences. So what we were doing physically or in person now that we're doing virtually, we're very deliberately thinking about how can we enhance this experience? How can we drive more interactivity? And how can we make sure the content's really relevant to what's going on in the world right now? And so the way we've reacted is to invest in the technology in the same way that I might invest in the infrastructure at a physical event with staging and lighting and AV and infrastructure there. We're looking at what do we need to invest in, whether it's time or dollars, to make sure that the experiences that we're putting on are valuable for people. So we've started out with Zoom webinars, and that's been good. But I find a lot of shortcomings there personally. It's very hard to drive real audience engagement. Most people come to events to network, right? As much as we'd like to think they're here to see you and me, they're really here to talk to the other people. Jasmine has been great. And so, one of the things that I do is sort of culturally make sure that I set the tone, that everyone in the chat when we're doing a Zoom webinar introduces themselves, says where they're from, share something that they can help with, what they're looking for help with. And so, we had almost 1,000 people on that event last week, and we had a ton of chatter of people, talking in the chat, much like we do here. And that drives some sense of community, but we're doing more there, right? So what we did was we reacted quickly. So we had a board meeting, I forget the exact date, March 5th, I think it was. It was a week before things really blew up, but we were thinking about it then. We invited in somebody, a few like Ernst & Young and a few others to talk about what they thought might happen. We happened to do that event through Zoom. I recorded that session with my board so that we put content out about what the prediction was. And then we were very ahead of like, okay, let's get the EDA involved. Let's make sure that we're talking, we're providing value in how people can adjust. What's the technology that we need to make this happen? How do we make this the most engaging experience for our members, which I would not say we've cracked the code on, but that's what we're thinking a lot about.
All right.
Even things like, it looks like you're in decent light, but I've got a lot of stuff in the office, like somewhere over my shoulders, one of those Blue Yeti mics over here. We've got good equipment. I invested in things. This thing right here, this is awesome. This is called a Loom Cube. This is a little portable light with a diffuser.
That's nice.
I know it may sound silly, but if you're running a business, the quality, if I can get it to turn off, that'd be great. The quality of the production really matters.
It does.
And so relatively small investments, what does the experience look like for people digitally? Do you look well lit, and can people hear you? I mean, these things matter. Like, you would not give someone a mic or make sure, or they wouldn't have them well lit on a real stage.
Right.
So how do we replicate that online?
Somebody said I need that for Zoom classes.
That's my nephew. You do.
That's your nephew.
Lume.
Thank you for joining us.
It's awesome.
Yeah, but it's true. And I spoke about that earlier, and that's another meetup that we have about preparing yourself. Like if you work out and you're constantly going to the gym and the gym shuts down, what are you going to do? Do you have any resources in play in your house, for example, to work out? Same thing with podcasting, same thing with tech. Do you have, a tripod, which I have, that I got. I have my Blue Yeti mic as well. I have the whole setup with the monitor. How comfortable, how normal are you to be prepared for something? So that's an excellent point that you made and drove home, because that's important. A lot of podcasters that I know are very studio based. And now what happens? Do you know about Zencaster? Do you know about Soundtrap? What's the resources that you can get to quick? So
yeah. I mean,
true.
And I'm sure you know these things better than I do, but the tripod I'm on with this little ring light folds up to a nice small case. The Zooms I've got a little Zoom recorder that's very small.
Mm-hmm.
The Blue Yeti is probably the biggest thing I've got that's got to be portable, but a lot of this stuff is relatively affordable. Some of it's a little more expensive, but most of it's relatively expensive, but can make a huge difference in the production quality.
They do. They do.
So, I think that having thinking about how can you enhance the production and make it portable and be ready to be on the move and have backup batteries. I mean, this is the third ring light I've had because I kept trying battery powered ones, and finally I just bought one that plugged in because they didn't last long enough. But those things go, and I was doing an interview and the thing died, and you run with it, but you can see the reflection in the mirror. But that's, I just think being thoughtful about your setup.
Right.
When I'm bringing somebody on to Zoom, we talk about the angles of the camera, like the same sort of thing, obviously the content.
We talk. That's another thing that the conversation has been shifted and has been pivoting as far as like, okay, there's a lot of things happening on live, a lot of celebrities, a lot of different things, and it obviously to the situation is more natural because you are home. You are not in that resourceful space, but you have to be mindful. A lot of times you see people on Zoom or they're like, oh
yeah, they're all up in here. Yeah, it's no good. It's
like my mom or like our relatives, they do like FaceTime and all you see is like they don't so it happens, but you're absolutely correct. And that's what me and Ann were talking. She's my co-partner at Podcasters in New Jersey. We speak about those things because I felt like I got comfortable too. And I was like, oh, I don't need this. And then everything started happening. I was like, okay, let me get this little by little. And little by little, you get yourself set up as what you said. I had to ask you another question. So as far as Propelify, I know you had 8,000 attendees, 80 speakers. You had so many different things. What's the plan for this year? What do you guys put in place?
So we're planning right now two plans. One is if we're fortunate enough to have this happen in person, what does that look like? I give that like a 20% chance. Even if people start to get a little bit comfortable getting outdoors, I can't imagine we're going to be at a place where thousands of people want to get together in that way, unfortunately. But I'm not ruling it out. So we are making a plan for for getting together in person. At the same time, we're looking at, just like we talked about, like what tools. And if anybody has suggestions, I would very much welcome them. We're looking at a bunch of virtual conference software that can best create the experience of a large-scale event like that. And like I said, I think that the ability to drive networking and real interaction and sometimes impromptu, random interaction. People say, we've had great speakers. We've had the governor and Ariana Huffington and Gary Vaynerchuk. We've had great people speak. And that's what helps sort of sell tickets, bring people in the door. But the real reason people go is to meet, is for the unknown, really, to meet all these other people who may help their businesses, who might become clients, is for the networking component. But that's not people don't sign up for that out of the gate. They sign up for, well, I'm going to go see this great speaker, but therefore I will be in the room with a bunch of other people like me or who are curious about this topic, and that'll increase the chances that I'm going to actually get some real benefit out of this. So I'm thinking a lot about how do we make sure, if it's just 100 Zoom sessions, I think it's a fail. I don't think you can't just have 100 speakers and hope it works. You've got to figure out a way to drive real good interaction. And like I said, we're looking at some software that does that. Some of them they look almost like games. You have a virtual, maybe some of you have been to these, but you have a virtual booth. You can interact, you can spend time. I mean, they're Some of them look awesome, but I haven't decided on one yet. But we will have the event one way or the other.
Right.
We do an annual gala. We're going to have that event one way or the other, even if we end up shipping every participant a meal. We're thinking about doing a wine tasting with like a virtual sommelier. Like, we're going to make it work one way or the other.
Yeah. No, and I love that. And there's two things that you gather about this whole thing. With COVID, it either makes you dive into the digital world harder, right? And then when you do come back, people still need that attention. They need that networking piece, you know, and they need that connection. So it's going to be two things that people are going to be maybe a little fearful to obviously go to, you know, thousands of peoples and crowd, especially someplace like Propelify. But at the same token, you are aware that it's important for the interaction. I feel like with podcasting, it's a lot of solo thing. You kind of lose that interaction. It's a lot of yourself, maybe a team, depending how large your brand and the sponsorship or who you work for. If you're, let's say, NPR or anything like that, it's a little bit more, you know, it's a more engagement. But that's the reason why the meetup wasn't so important for me, and to have you speak to everyone and everybody, you know, meet and connect, because there's been so many things come out of people who met at Propelify. I'm sure who do business together. I know people that have gone that quite a few that have connected. So that's the same thing with, you know, keeping that alive. And that's awesome that you have something put in place that is virtual and it still gives that normalcy, you know?
I mean, the reason that I started Propelify is because I think entrepreneurship, in podcasting, whether it's your own business or a side hustle, but that experience, I think, can be very solitary.
Right.
And so I started the New Jersey Tech Meetup. That kind of took on a life of its own. That inspired Propelify. But it was really built around, how do I get myself in the room with a bunch of other people who are sort of going through the same struggles that I'm going through, who want to help each other out, and bring in someone, you know, thought leader of some kind to share some knowledge with us. Right. And that's the core of it all. And it's, you know, much like what we're doing here. It's how do you build some sense of community, and connect with other people who can share. I mean, one is, I think you can just build some human relationships, but it's also, you can save yourself time, right? If people are interested in podcasting and they join, you know, they get involved with your group, and they learn some things about how to podcast the right way that save them 6 months of time and in their own setup and production quality and how to sell sponsors. Like, that matters. You know, that might make or break their ability to even keep going. So at the end of the day, I think it's good business. I also think it's just good. It's sort of fun personally, to work with everybody.
Is Tech Meetup going to have any more meetings at Stevens?
That's a good question. I hope so. So we had for maybe 8 years, every month had the meetup at Stevens.
Wow.
Consistently.
Wow.
I don't know if we missed any. I mean, we almost none. Propelify took a huge amount of focus, and then now with the council, even more so. So I'm thinking about handing over the reins to someone. I haven't found someone. If anyone here is interested, let me know. But I'd like it to continue. We still, you know, I'm hosting their virtual innovation expo tomorrow. A great relationship with them. I think it will continue in some form. I personally have been less able to be focused on it, unfortunately.
That's a major commitment, though. 8 years consistently.
Every month.
Every month. Every single month.
Every month. What's that?
Wow. Every single month. Never missed one.
I don't think I missed one, honestly. I may have missed one or two, but I was pretty good about scheduling them selfishly, so I knew my own schedule and just worked around my own schedule.
Right.
I think over the 8 year, I mean, it was April 2010 that we started, so it's 10 years. But I don't think I missed one.
That's amazing, and that's consistency. And I tell the podcasters that consistency is key. Consistency.
It's true.
It's very true. I had a question, an interesting question to ask you. So recently in the news, I saw that I'm not sure if you've been watching. Paterson, New Jersey, has had a situation where they're not. Their technology is very low. Their awareness of any resources is very low. And the teachers have been giving packets to students. They're dropping them off at school and scanning them into the system and grading them. Did you hear about that?
I did not know about this, no. So
they're in need of between 1,700 to 5,000 computers, because a lot of the kids in the in that area, specifically in Paterson, are underserved. So what's going on? People are risking their lives right now with COVID. So they're picking up their school lunch and they're dropping off their assignments, and the teachers are correcting them or looking through them and scanning them into a system. And they're still doing paperwork. And what do you think about communities like that? being the CEO of NJ Tech Council, that completely we're not prepared, obviously, for COVID, but on top of that, we're behind with technology already.
I mean, I think that equity in technology there's a lot of progress to be made.
Right.
And so, I'd like to see the council figure out ways we can help serve some of those communities.
Right.
I wasn't aware of this situation.
Yeah.
I have heard of others.
I'll send you the article so you can see it. Yeah. It was really heartbreaking to me because I'm from Patterson originally. And I know of certain schools. I went to a performing arts school that I taught there. They were ready, but there are a lot of different schools that were not. So to have these teachers, it was about 4 or 5 teachers, an administrator, and a district official looking through paperwork, and kids dropping off paperwork during this time. You're just like, wait a minute, you're risking your life. With what's happening, it was just strange.
I mean, this is what I meant about we're not all in the same boat. Like, I'm very fortunate. I've got a lot of devices. Right. My kids have access to the things that they need.
Right.
But it's very much on my mind that there are people who are hourly workers whose jobs are in major trouble, or they may have lost it already.
Right.
Who maybe have a smartphone, but that's the only real device in the house. And
correct.
Kids don't have access. I mean, I'm sure that describes some of the people you're talking about here. So
yeah,
as much as we could help those people, we very much would like to. I heard about something like this in Hoboken. I reached out to a friend at Google to see if we could get a donation of Google Chromebooks. So
right.
far, it sounds like he basically made it sound like they're getting hundreds or thousands of those requests. So he wasn't able to get it too far along. But, I would like to do something if we could.
Right. And speaking of that situation, you can tell, the group about the resources and things that you are doing, and that you are doing amazing things. I mean, the Clean Air Alliance, the things that you are doing, so they know that NJ Tech Council is bringing resources and bringing a foundation to the community at large.
I mean, so what we're focused on is, one of the reasons I was brought in was to think about who do we serve and how do we serve. Right. And so we've identified sort of 5 groups in the community: startups, corporates, mm-hmm. professional services, investors, and then governments, nonprofits, and educational. This is sort of one that we serve. And our value is really bringing those groups together. And so it's a mixture of a variety of events now. Obviously, most of those are online. We're launching a mentorship program so that we can match mentors and people who need more guidance. We've launched some funding opportunities with things like this Clean Tech Alliance. We're at a $50,000 reward, no strings attached, to a company that's making a difference there. It's worth noting, to your point before, the things that matter the most in that competition are thinking about the future of the workforce that's being displaced by transition to technology and clean energy, the reduction of energy usage. So they're actually trying to get people their bills to be less. We are. And energy equity. So not coming up with solutions that are for the few, but for the many. Right. And so that's very much in line with how we want to see the council continue to bring value to the community. I mean, we're sending out, people should subscribe to our newsletter. We send out all sorts of resources and things, whether it's here's how to get funding from the EDA, here's clarification on things from the government funding programs right now, other potential resources for things people can get involved with. So there are, depending on what you do and what your needs are, there's a lot of things that we're looking to do to make sure we're continuing to add value to the community.
Yeah,
I think it's worth pointing out, by the way, I'm sorry if I'm off track here, but there's an opportunity for podcasters right now in the same way there's an opportunity for us, which is a lot of talent that people want to interview is sitting at home just like this without a lot to do. And so I've been very successful in bringing on speakers because of that opportunity. And I think for podcasters who are looking to interview certain people, I mean, it's a hustle game. I've been doing this a while. I know what it's like to try to reach out to somebody to get an interview. But if you keep at it, I think your success rate will be higher now. I'm interviewing Al Roker next Friday.
That's what I wanted. That was my next thing. I saw that you're doing an interview with Al Roker. That's pretty cool.
I'm sorry. I never thought I'd say I'm interviewing Al Roker.
I was like, wow, because I'm part of the NJ Tech Council, and I get the news, I get everything, and I was like, wait, Al Roker, and that's what I tell the podcasters. You're gonna do follow up with anyone that you want to interview. Why not, like you say, shoot your shot with someone who you think you might not get, and see what happens. You never know. You just don't know, and especially in a position like now, Al Roker is going to be interviewed by Aaron Price. Look at that.
it's not who you're not going to get, it's who you are going to get, right?
Exactly.
Who's going to be the first one to say yes, right? Because someone will say yes, right? Tim Draper we had on last week, or I don't even know what day it is, maybe it was this week, but he's another guy who's hard to get in front of.
Right.
But there's an opportunity now for people who are creating content to get in front of people who might normally be harder to get to show up at an event or might be busier day to day. But now are, the thing with Al, that's 4 years in the making. I've known his video production guy. We've always tried to get him at the festival. And I mean, it was a content that was one because of good quality, consistent content, to your point before.
Right.
There's somebody on our email list who works with Al, who's been seeing what we've been doing for years. Once in a while, we've been in touch. We've tried to get him at the festival, and it's never quite worked out time-wise. And then it happened to be, because of this, the same guy responded to an email. He's like, Al's sitting at home mostly right now, so maybe we can get him. And sure enough, he's coming on next week. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's so many people I find don't have the courage to ask. But the worst case scenario is the no. Like, who cares?
And you're doing the same type of work with anyone that's not, let's say, a celebrity or someone you look up to. You're still doing the same networking. So
that's right.
You're not losing anything. And there's a young lady who's on here. Shout out to her. She's interviewed Tiffany Haddish, people like, comedians, famous, and she's just asked. I mean, I say that all the time. I've been able to interview people like Eric Benet, like Faith Evans, or I've gotten just even Danny Glover that I've gotten on the show from just asking. And our content was good. Our sound wasn't the best, but they said yes.
Yeah, so, that's the thing. You ask enough, somebody will say yes.
Absolutely. I wanted to, I'm gonna let you go in a little bit because I know this whole cutoff thing with the hour with live. I want to thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your knowledge, your experience, and your humbleness. I wanted to ask you, what is just the last thing, what are 3 best pieces of advice you have received in business? Just 3 that someone has given you.
The 3 best pieces of advice. I think the first thing, it's probably from my wife who started this piece of advice, which is to really focus on the end game. For many years, I get fired up. I'm very principled, and I want to win the argument. Right. But sometimes I'll win the argument at the cost of actually what I was trying to accomplish, right? So maybe at the end of the day, the person believed I was right, but they're not going to be the client. Like they're pissed off at me now. And so in general, I try to really think about when something turns into any kind of conflict, like what am I really trying to get out of this exchange? Like what is the thing that I want? And if I apologize right now, is that going to make everybody, hopefully if I apologize, not hopefully, I would mean it. But should I just do that so we can move on to whatever the thing is here and not try to prove I was right or wrong or whatever, So I think that's the biggest thing, is to really understand where are you trying to go. And if you have, whatever bumps come up along the way, to not get hung up on those small exchanges, but to really focus on where you're headed and how do you.
I knew that was going to happen. Oh, man. We're getting good. Hopefully he'll come back and we'll just finish up. Yeah, so we were cut off. There goes Aaron. Okay. There he is. He's back. Hold on. All right. Right before the cutoff, we were just there. We're almost making it. I appreciate you guys for coming back. See, I just said that was going to happen, but we're here.
I didn't realize there's an hour limit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an hour limit.
All right. Well, I'll try to be quick, but
no, you're fine. You're fine. But your wife is a wise woman. That's very good advice.
It's good advice. So that's the first thing. What else?
So your end game. Make sure you focus on that. Okay.
That's a big one. I think going with your gut. There has not been one time when something's gone great, and especially when something's not gone well, that I haven't thought, I knew this thing wasn't going to work out, especially those things. Right. I tend to be pretty optimistic when I'm hiring somebody, or even if you're working with a potentially problematic client where you're really maybe hungry for the revenue. And I'm still that guy. I've been that guy, but I'm always that guy. But I'm a little more careful to, is this just going to be a headache forever? Right. And so I really listen to those things to think about or to determine if it's worth pursuing and if I should just take another path. Third thing, I think the third thing is kind of a driving principle, which is I don't see any obstacle really as an obstacle. I think all of these things, including this pandemic, are opportunities.
Right.
And I think focusing on I see this all the time where people get hung up on, well, they said it can't do it. This guy's a no. It's the same thing I'm talking about with speakers saying no.
Right.
It's just a pathway to yes. You got to figure out the differentiator to me that I think the major differentiator in business and in life is an absolute sense of determination. And no matter what is going on, you're going to figure it out. I mean, this has happened with the events we've done physically where tents blew over because of crazy rain that's set up at the week of, and speakers are canceled, and the governor almost canceled. And I mean, it's a constant path of, well, I could just kind of throw in the towel, or I got to solve this. I mean, we had a liquor license drop the day before. I mean, just everything that it felt like one of those everything gone wrong could go wrong. But really, that's kind of life. Things go wrong, and how you react, I think, is what really determines both your happiness and your success. I think that's probably it's not. So I think that those are the three things I'd lean into.
I agree. I mean, I think that attitude is everything. You have to figure it out. There's no other way. No one else is going to do it for you. When there's thousands of hundreds of people depending, and they could be, like you said, tents flying. I've been in situations where I'm in the middle of speaking to someone who's very important, and then the audio goes bad, or it's something you just, you laugh at it. You just figure it out. And you always should have a plan B too, because you never know. I've been there when I've been promoting a guest, and I'm like, this person's going to be on, and they don't show up, and you're just like, what are we going to talk about? You have to be prepared for things, and that's very important in anything you do, especially with technology too.
Yeah, things break. We hit the hour cutoff. We
just got caught.
Your toes.
Got caught off, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to end with asking you so how important do you feel that podcasting is in the technology ecosystem?
I think it's very important. I think that storytelling is a lot of what all of this is about, right?
Right.
Good quality content in whatever medium is what engages people, inspires people, educates people, connects people. Right. And so I think it's critically important that we continue to have great storytellers, and whether it's a highly produced, very in-depth podcast or just something more casual and off the cuff. I think if you're providing really good value, really good content, it's really, really important.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it brings a lot of opportunity to meet different people, put yourself in spaces that you never thought you would.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned is very true. I mean, I appreciate your time.
Let me ask you the last question, which is, what can the council do to be supportive of the podcasters in New Jersey?
So what can you do? So let's see. One thing that I feel that is definitely needed with podcasters in general is a lot more technology support and awareness. A lot of times, specifically, let's say with voice devices or different things that we're not consumed by. Like a lot of podcasters are studio based and some do it themselves. I think it's just the support of knowing that we have resources and technology, and a support like yours would be very, very big for our community. Specifically,
tell me what you mean by technology, like a studio to go to or discounted services. Like, what do you mean?
I would say a reliable studio to go to. Discounted services would be very good because a lot of times you're doing things out of your own pocket. A lot of podcasters are working team based. Shout out to Deacon Media, who's on actually as well. Resources of that nature. A lot of times individually, podcasters might not know that all of this technology, small business funding, pitches and things are available specifically in New Jersey. We don't know. So maybe joining up with you guys would be something that could elevate each and every individual as a collective to do more for their brand and their podcast.
Yeah, we could. I mean, one of the things we're working on.
Right.
So give me some feedback on this. We're working on something for entrepreneurs where a lot of them need spaces to meet, right?
Right.
And there also happens to be a lot of real estate around this, around New Jersey where there's empty conference rooms. And so we're building this network of spaces. Obviously, right now, the priority of this has dropped a bit. But the idea was that if you're a member of our community and you need a conference room, you could tap into our network of spaces of all these attorneys and lawyers and corporations that have, vacant conference rooms, and we'll figure out a way to match you and let you in. Okay. And we've already got a lot of spaces where they said, yeah, no problem, they can come in and use the space. What if we did something like that and found potential studio spaces that might, during the down cycles, let podcasters use them? Maybe it would be for a fee because it's a little higher end, more expensive, but would that be helpful?
I mean, yeah, I feel like sometimes people want a actual space, not just to do it at home, to be able to have their team and have that. That would be helpful too. Someone asked a question here, say, what would be easier is finding ways to monetize, even if it's small. More ways to connect and network across. That's something too that where a lot of podcasters are having trouble monetizing when they're not a large backed up public media like NPR, or if you're not even like with PRX or any of those companies. It's really hard to get sponsorships. Specifically in New Jersey, there's a lot of different podcasters, and people are getting to brand podcasting to, you know, make money doing that, but just to support their passion projects. So if we could get help with something like that, that would be good too.
I mean, one thing we could do, and maybe you and I should follow up about this afterwards, we're selling sponsorships, and sometimes content creation is part of the deal. Okay. And so maybe we can leverage the network of the podcasters in New Jersey to help create some of those podcasts and hire them to build out some of those services. That would be an easy one.
Yeah, that would be good. That sounds great.
Sarah had a question I just wanted to ask a follow-up to. I lost it. Hello, Farah, wherever you are, friend of mine. Oh, mentorship. I don't know if she saw, but mentorship is something I'm working on. I'm not as tied into the podcast community, so I would welcome your input and your community's input on what we could do to make sure that we can provide some more value. I think access to content and speakers is certainly something we can help with.
Yes, and conference rooms is good too, even with some of the group or members who create content, creating certain content to help them make some money and monetize what they're doing. Because like I said, a lot of them that are in our group do branding podcasting, which they might team up with a brand, but they are not specifically honing in on their creative process. They're trying to monetize it, and they're up and coming. Even myself, you know, I actually was running an operations of a podcast called The Love Zone USA with a gentleman named Mike Thomas. And he had an amplifier, a Bluetooth amplifier. He went to Propelify. He came up to you, and he's told me the story. And I wasn't able to make it those 2 years in a row. I had a baby and things like that happened. But he told me about your, you know, Propelify and everything like that. And I was able to meet a lot of people through that avenue. So me bringing that up is by saying is that meeting people and engaging with people brings you more opportunity to know, you know. And, you know, I brought that as a, just so you understand that I've been hearing of NJTC Council, and I know about that also through Stephen as well. So I think that giving people opportunity to know each other and see what brands they have out there. I worked with him, and we made money with the brand, with the amplifier, right? But it wasn't supporting a lot of the creative stuff that we had to do because we were still running that separate entity product. So that is happening with dual podcasters. They have maybe like a product or something they're doing, but it's hard to monetize it as a whole for them. So,
it's a tough business for sure.
I know it is. I know it's crazy, but whatever.
I want to, you know, I saw that. Yeah. And hello, Seth and Farrell, we miss you too. But I don't know. I think it's a really hard industry to break out. The laws and contracts piece we can definitely help with. We've got lots of attorneys.
Yes.
I would say if you have questions like about things like that, we could run. I could suggest someone that you could talk to on a show about that. We could run a program like that. But that we have plenty of access to if there's any issues around legal stuff and IP. But if the council can be a resource to you or to this community, whether it's bringing in speakers or help raising awareness, you know, I definitely would like to know. I think that what makes these things interesting is when we all work together, and instead of it having little silos of stuff all around the state, we say, actually, we represent a really powerful group of people who can do things really, really well. Would be happy to make that happen.
So what I'll do is I'll put a list together that maybe I could get a poll going on with the community. And do maybe a survey and see what I feel like is the most important. And then I'll reach out to you about those things. I really appreciate that. And I am very honored for you, you know, being on here and speaking to us and offering your help, because I feel as though the reason I started this is because every time I went on Eventbrite or I saw something, everything was in Brooklyn, New York, Manhattan. And I'm just like, And then, like I said, I was running the pod. It's called The Love Zone USA. And, you know, I did a lot of the interviews. I did a lot of the promotions. And we had something that we did with BB Kings that we were making money back in the day. We were doing stuff with Audible. And then everything kind of went to a halt. And I wanted to continue to bring awareness and to connect to people because, like I explained to you with Mike, you connecting with him. I found out about this and Steven. And you get to hone in on, okay, this is what I think this community needs. And I felt like a lot of people didn't have a place to go and meet each other. And a lot of the podcasters in my community are actually working together, have made, you know, progress, started their podcast, gotten sponsorship, gotten niche sponsorships for their specific type of brands. And I just feel like if we can do something where we, you know, can get people to collectively create content or do the awareness and even do conference space for a lot of them, that would be very helpful, because I do feel like the community New Jersey is important to promote podcasting, you know, and like I said, we don't get no love at all.
We don't. And I mean, besides it being a pain, the pain to get over to Brooklyn and Queens and these other places, there's a lot of good people here. Like, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on, and people who I think put out great content, are great thought leaders. There's a lot of access to these people here, and so, you know, regardless of where the stuff's located, I actually think it's, especially being here where there isn't a community, or if there wasn't a community, it's a lot more isolating. If you, by becoming parts of things like this, I think it starts to make you feel like, all right, not only am I a little bit more likely to find some help, I'm more likely to be successful overall, because as things come up, I have a resource of somebody I can talk to who understands the pain I'm going through. What should I charge for this thing? Where can I report it? What's the right software? You know, all that stuff. That's all those things come up, I'm sure, all the time.
Okay. I think that we spoke about isolating, we spoke about the networking, we spoke about the technology, the different pieces of advice and everything that's resourceful, and what you're trying to grasp as a whole with the surveys, with even the, you know, the lunch and learn, which you're having one tomorrow at 12. You know, every week you're doing something to bring awareness. And that was the passion that I brought in after what I was doing kind of went to a halt. And I felt like I had no one to turn to. I didn't know what to do. And then Ann and myself, who is my partner, and we were like, you know what, let's just do a meetup. And then it started progressing. We were called to do it at Newer Venture Partners. We were like, wow, that's awesome. We're in the Audible building. Newer Venture Partners letting us host. Shout out to Anthony Frazier, who gave me the opportunity. Through I met him because I met someone else who went, you know, and it's that whole relationship and currency of building with people that is important, that we lose sight of. And, you know, Sarah made a point, and she was saying that she created her own movement. Sometimes you create your own movement, and then you can bring other people with you along as well. Or creating your own movement inspires other people to see what you've done. What did you do different? How did you create this contract? How did you get this person? And those questions are not asked when you're on a solo basis. Specifically podcasting, it's a solo thing to do. You're doing it by yourself. It's not like radio in the 1950s when people would just crowd around and listen to the radio before TV came out. That whole feel.
Yep.
So.
No, I'm totally with you on that. I think it. I think the momentum sort of drives more and more momentum. Somebody mentioned that they're in the Jersey Shore. They should check out, it's called the Jersey Shore Tech Meetup. Good group of people down there in Asbury Park.
Look at that.
And if you don't know about what's going on at Bellworks, also a really great space with a lot of interesting people. Obviously right now is a little challenging, but one day when the world gets back to some normal, check out Bellworks. But I think it's that you can create opportunities by doing things like what you're talking about, right? You meet a guy like Anthony, he invites you into MVP.
Right.
That the door just opens. You still have to do a good job, but as you can produce good quality, whatever you're doing, events or podcasts or whatever you're producing, then it opens more and more doors. And I think that's critical, right? Like you can network your way into the opportunity, and then you have to deliver. But if you can do that, you can continue, I think, to step those opportunities into something else.
Correct. Thank you so much. I don't want to keep you any longer. I know that you're home and it's Thursday night.
Yeah, who are really, a few times they've knocked curious with when they can come in. So
I know, I already know. I have a little one too that's there. And I'm like, but thank you so much, Aaron. I appreciate your time, and I'm definitely going to get back to you with that feedback. I'm going to ask the community what are the most important, you know, things that they feel that we need to hone in specifically, and then I'll compare that to what I send you, and then you see what you can help us with. And I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Thanks for doing what you're doing. Keep up the good work, and let us know how we can help.
Thank you so much. All right. Enjoy your night. Take care.
You
Right.
too. Take it easy.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Guys, that was great. Look at the stuff that we've been. Oh my goodness. I definitely have to ask you guys. Thank you, Sarah, for your compliment. Thank you, Malene Her, for listening in. And thank you so much, Manny, for checking back in. That was Aaron Price. He actually offered a lot of nuggets, and he's wanting to see what we might need from him. And that's a huge step. I mean, like you see, we just asked to get him on, and he came on. So, you know, shoot your shot with who you want as a guest. Make sure that you are connecting with people. I know it's very difficult. It's hard for a lot of people, especially with, you know, mental health issues arising and the difficulty of social distancing. But do what you have to do and continue to do the best that you can. Shout out to Helena. I see you, and I know you started your podcast. I really love engaging with you guys, and I appreciate you guys. And I'm gonna download this because live has been a little bit wacky because so many people are on. But I definitely, you can see the replay, and let me know if you guys need anything. I'm gonna try to put a survey together and give them what we think are our best resources that we can use from NJ Tech Council, because they are saying on live, as you saw, they will support our needs. So I appreciate you guys, and have a great night. Okay.